Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I'm going to tell you about the books I know I'm going to be reading in December and play a silly TBR game to pick another one. So I've never done a silly TBR game on the channel before. I know lots of people really enjoy doing them, and I've always kind of strayed away from them because I tend to have like lots of events and things like that I'm taking part in each month, which shape my reading. So I don't need a kind of random way to pick books. But this month I've got less events that I'm taking part in, and I want to get through a lot of shorter books to continue with my Read What You Own challenge. So I thought I would play a TBR game, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first, let me go through the books I know I'm going to be reading. So there's a couple of events there's one event I'm going to be taking part in this month. And then I've got some kind of book groups and buddy reads as well. So let me talk through those. So the event is Remember December, which I talked about on the channel a little while ago. Which is a rereadathon. So the idea is that you reread books for Remember December. There's a bunch of different hosts for it. I'll leave links to all of their channels in the description. But the essential requirement for it is just to reread one book. But there are three prompts as well to help guide you should you want to do those. Those three prompts are to reread a book you've basically forgotten, to reread a book to discover how you really feel about it. So a book that you either remember really loving or remember really disliking, and then also to reread a book in a different format. So that could be a new translation, or you could do what I'm going to do, which is listen to the audio version of a book that I previously read. So let me tell you what my picks for those three things are. So the book I've basically forgotten is going to be Rage by Stephen King, the first of the books in this volume, the Bachman books. So Rage is kind of an interesting book because King has taken it out of print, so it's no longer available. So it's about a high school shooting. I think it was in some way linked to a subsequent real high school shooting, and King, understandably decided to take it out of the public domain as part of that, or take it out of print as part of that. I do have a copy of it in this Bachman Books edition. I first read it when this came out in the 80s. The book Rage itself was originally published in the 70s, but then under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman, and then reprinted in this. So I have no recollection of it at all. So interested to see what I make of it on the reread. Next up then, a reread a book to find out what you really feel about it. So this is a book I've only read once. I remember loving it. I remember it made a really big impression on me as a teenager. What I'm interested to discover is, did it make an impression on me just because I was a teenager, and it spoke to me because of that? So will I still enjoy it as an adult? The book is Zoe by Dirk Wittenborn. So I got a copy of it out of the library, as I say, as a teenager, and remember really, really loving it. I think from the back, it's about like a young woman from like the sticks who travels to New York or something like that and becomes some sort of celebrity. So I really don't know anything about it other than that I've definitely read it. I bought this second-hand copy of it a little while ago with the intention of rereading it, so it seems like a good pick for this event. And then finally, to reread a book in a different format. So as I've said, I'm going the audio route for this one. So I'm going to reread True Grit by Charles Portis, which I read last year for the June on the Range event run by Michael Gay Vaughan. Absolutely love the book. The audiobook version is narrated by the novelist Donna Tartt, who I think is a very interesting pick, but apparently she does a fantastic job of it. So really interested to read that or listen to that. It comes highly recommended. Like her narration of it, as I say, is supposed to be fantastic. So I thought I would give that a try. So those are my three picks for Remember December. I can't remember if they're the same, ironically, I can't remember if they're the same books that I talked about in my Remember December announcement video, where I think I talked about some books that I might do for it. So anyway, those are the three that I've kind of decided are the ones to go for. The other event I'll be taking part in December is Cthulhu Christmas, which is run I think primarily by Greg from Another Ripley Fell Reads and Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics. So the idea for this event is purely to read at least one Cthulhu Mythos short story, either by H.P. Lovecraft or by one of the many other authors who've written Cthulhu Mythos stories. So I have behind me there, I forgot to get it down, a big like collected edition of all of the Lovecraft Cthulhu Mythos stories. So I'm going to read one of those. But I just think it's a fun thing to do at Christmas, is to read some H.P. Lovecraft. So we will see how I get on with that. I'll definitely read one. I may read more. So the moving on to like group reads then. So 2 group reads this month. So for my Patreon book club, we are reading Maeve Fly by CJ Leede, which I've heard good things. Well, I've heard mixed things about. Some people seem to really like it. Some people not quite so much. But I'm looking forward to it. Sounds like a fun read anyway. So we will be reading that. Should you want to take part, you can join my Patreon on a week's free trial, which I think a week will be enough to read this. So you could do that should you want to. And maybe you'll like it and stick around for longer. The other group read is this one. So this is for Sarah the Bookish Knitter. So for her Patreon, which she's literally just launched, and Sarah's channel is a fantastic channel, particularly if you like category romance, which is something I'm getting into more and more. So category romance is like Mills and Boon, Harlequin romance kind of stuff. So Sarah is an absolute expert on that. She's just launched her Patreon, and the first patron group read is going to be Come Toy With Me by Cara Summers. So Sarah very kindly, knowing that I'm on the Read What Your Own challenge and can't buy any books, sent me a copy of this Mills and Boon Blaze double, which has Come Toy With Me, the aforementioned book by Cara Summers, and also Drop Dead Gorgeous by Kimberly Ray. So Come Toy With Me sounds wonderful. So it's about a rugged Navy captain who falls in love with an attractive toy shop owner at Christmas. So I mean, that's pretty much perfect. So yeah, very much looking forward to reading that and discussing it with Sarah's other patrons. Right, what else then? So I've got a couple of buddy reads this month as well that I'll be doing with patrons of mine. So the top tier on my Patreon, you get to do a buddy read with me where you pick the book. So I've got 2 of those this month. So Dark Gods by T.D. Klein, which I've been meaning to read for ages. I heard so many good things about it. So yeah, looking forward to that. That was the pick for one of my patrons, Burnout. And then also Mary's Monster by Lita Judge, which is about Mary Shelley and how she came to write Frankenstein. So it sounds fascinating. I reread Frankenstein. Did I read it this year? I can't remember if I read it this year or last year. I think I reread it this year, and it's a fantastic book. So really interested to hear, to read more about the creation of Frankenstein. So that was picked by another one of my patrons, Diane. So yeah, definitely looking forward to both of those. And then the only other thing I've got on my list for this month that's a definite is Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. So I need to continue my Disturbing Books project and get that wrapped up. So Tampa is one of the books that's on that list, supposed to be very troubling. So I'll probably try and read that before Christmas so it doesn't send me into a funk over the Christmas period. So yeah, those are the things I'm definitely going to be reading this month. Now, on to the TBR game. So, in my November TBR video, I said I was thinking about doing this and asked for suggestions. And a viewer called Nalisify came up with a great suggestion, which I really like, which they're doing this month, I think, or have been doing this month, which is that you pick a random book to start with, and then from there you have to do the next book you read has to have some kind of connection to the first book. So my intention for this month is to read all of the books that I've just talked about, the ones that are kind of locked in on my TBR, and then randomly, and I'm going to pick that book now with you, I will read a randomly chosen book, and then the books subsequent to that will have some connection to the preceding book, if that makes sense. So for example, if the book I choose now is has a red cover or something like that, the next book could have red on the cover, or it could be, if it's a particular genre or set in a particular city, or you get the idea. So there needs to be some connection. So I will do that, and then when I do my weekly wrap-ups, I guess, and my December month-end wrap-up, I'll tell you, I'll talk through what the connections were between the books. So, right, what I've got next to me, let me move off the books that I've just put on top of it. what I've got next to me is my TBR cart. I'll flip the camera in a minute and show it to you. So this cart has 3 shelves, and each shelf has 2 sides. I've got 2 coins in my pocket, I think. Yes, 2 20p pieces in my pocket. And I'm going to toss these to decide which shelf I pick from initially, and then like which half of the shelf I pick one. And we'll use the coins to gradually whittle it down to a particular book. So I've just gone through this cart and made sure that all of the books that are on there are like ones I haven't read yet and things like that. So yeah, the coins will decide what my first book is for this ongoing game. Okay, so here is my TBR cart. Let me give it a little twirl so you can see all the way around. So as you can see, there's 3 shelves and each shelf has 2 sides. So I've got my 2 20p's here. I'm going to toss, firstly I'm just going to toss one to decide if we go with the front side or the back side. So it will be heads front, tails back. Okay, so it's tails, so that's back. So let me spin it around. Okay, so we got 3 shelves. So now I'm going to toss both coins, one after the other. If it's, let's say, if it's tails, it's the bottom shelf. If it's heads and tails, it's the middle shelf. If it's heads and heads, it's the top shelf. Does that make sense? So first coin, heads. I'll just toss the same coin again. That would be easier, wouldn't it, than using 2? Oops. Right, this is already complete chaos. Right, let's toss it again. Tails, so middle shelf. Right, so let's lower the camera a bit so you can see the middle shelf a bit better. Now, what I didn't say is there are some books on here that are like in a series, and that's true indeed of the books on the middle shelf. So you've got some Donald Goines books here, and some of these are in a series, the Kenyatta series, and then you've got the Witches books here by James Darke. So if I end up picking one of the books from the series, I will read the first book in that series that I haven't read yet, if that makes sense. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 books. So I'm going to toss a coin. If it's heads, we'll choose from like 1 to 10 from the first half. If it's tails, we'll go on the other side. So tails, so we're going from this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 9? I think that's 9. So we're picking from these books. So what have we got here? So we've got a load of, so it's heavily weighted now towards it being a book from the Witches series by James Darke. Funnily enough, the first book I haven't read in the Witches series is book 2, which isn't actually here, but I've definitely got somewhere. So we've got the Witches. Let me show you one of these. Very sleazy, cheesy 80s British horror. We've got 2 Donald Goines books. Yeah, so these are both... Oh no, they're from 2... So this one I think is a standalone, so it's Cry Revenge. This one, Kenyatta's Last Hit, is one of the ones from the series. So if this one ends up being the one that gets picked, I'll read the first book in that series. And then we've also got, at the end, we've got Lady Godiva and Master Tom by Real C4, which was sent to me very kindly by the bookish badass Annie a while ago. And then we've also got Star Child by Fred Mustard Stewart, which I bought a while ago. I can't remember why. So let's just do, so effectively, well, let's just do halving it again. We'll just keep halving it until we get to a book. What I didn't say was which is which. So heads for the first half, second for the tails half. Tails for the second half. So tails, so we're going with, let's go with these 5. Okay, so let's just do given that we've got 3 Witches books there, let's just do a double coin toss. So if it's heads and heads, I'll read a Witches book. If it's heads and tails, I'll read Star Child. And if it's tails and tails, I'll read the Lady Godiva book. So first up, we have heads. So it's either going to be Witches or Star Child. So if it's heads, it's Witches. If it's if it's tails, it's Star Child. And it's heads. So I'm going to read Witches Book 2, which is the one I don't have here. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called The Trial. So that was complete chaos, wasn't it? And no doubt has given you an idea why I don't do a TBR game on the channel each month. So hopefully that wasn't too painful to watch. Anyway, this is the book. So I found my copy of it. So which is Book 2, The Trial by James Darke. So yeah, this will be the first book I read in that then ongoing chain of vaguely connected books. So I guess the next book after this could be another horror novel or a book set in the past, which this is. Or a book with yellow on the cover, or a book with disturbing 80s nudity on the cover. So yeah, we shall see what comes next. So yes, anyway, that is my TBR for December. Hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know in the comments what you're going to be reading in December. Let me know if you've read any of the things I talked about. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.